your soul knows. So like, if something is resonating with you, if the words that I'm saying, if you're like, this makes me hearing this guy talk makes me feel a little different, or, I'm gravitating toward learning from this author. Your soul knows who the teachers are. At the end of our days, we're just going to look back and we're going to have a number of teachers, right? And we're going to have learned a number of lessons and hopefully learn the lesson that we came here to learn. And so some teachers are negative and some teachers are positive. So when you start your spiritual journey, you just want to find a teacher. And that might be, it might be that you hire a coach. It might be that you start watching some YouTube videos on it, but you just start the process of learning from some of the great masters that are out there. But your soul will know which ones resonate with you and which ones don't. And I've been called to learn from business mentors. I've been called to learn from coaches, sports teams coaches. I've been called to learn from a ton of different people, spiritual mentors. And so I have, a handful of people that have provided me some really significant guidance along the way. And then I have a larger group of people that I've learned from remotely by reading their books or following them or just studying them. But the most important thing to really start to create your connection is to start learning and growing. And then the other thing that I'll tell you is healing as well. Healing and growth they're symbiotic. They're like one and the same. So in order to grow, you have to heal. And then, once you heal, you then grow, right? So you have to really heal. So in order for you to get into your spiritual journey, you might have to start healing some things that are uncomfortable. You might have to go look deeply at some traumatic events that have happened in the past, or even if you haven't gone through trauma, maybe your needs weren't met as a child. Maybe you have bitterness or resentment toward the way you were raised, your brothers or your sisters or your neighbor. All of those negative things that we feel is the beginning of us to find out what needs to be healed. Those are the symptoms. And so the more that we heal, the more that we're able to grow. And the more that you grow, the more that you're able to have a connection with the forces at work that are all around us that we can't see. I, like you, I don't care what somebody calls God. You can call it source, you can call it God, you can call it anything you want, Yahweh. I mean, there's 100 different names, for this, but it's a force that we can all tap into. And these forces are at work all around you at all times. And so to me, in my journey at this stage, I said, I want to learn how to make a connection to that field, that spiritual energy around us. And I spent a lot of my energy learning how to make that connection. And so it comes down to learning, growing, and healing. And as you do those three things, you're going to make a connection. Well, if you're being triggered, all right, so when you're triggered, you lose energy. If somebody cuts you off on the freeway and you're not just hoping that they get to wherever they need to get to quicker and hoping they do so safer. And, then, and believe me, I used to be the most triggered. I was a gang member. Like I lived with triggers all around me at all times. So I understand the exact opposite of this. And this is why I'm qualified to teach on the subject, because I've had to learn how to unwind a lot of triggers. But triggers are going to tell you that there's trauma there. And you might be triggered by watching politics, or triggered by, by somebody having more than you do, or triggered by jealousy, or triggered by all kinds of things, right? So triggers are generally where we start to do the digging. And you want to dig as deep as you can to find the roots of it. Now, I'll tell you one that came up for me. I had a spiritual retreat that I did this weekend. And as I'm teaching these things, oftentimes things will come up for me. And I get triggered when people are not on time. Now, I no longer lose energy. Like I'm not, getting upset and losing, friends and having huge consequences, but I would get triggered. And it dawned on me that it was because my mother was always late. And so I realized, wow, why does this bother me so much? Right? Like life would just be better if I didn't get bothered every time somebody was 5 minutes late, because everybody's always 5 minutes late in Los Angeles. And I prefer not to, have emotional energy leaving me all the time. And I realized, wow, it was because my mom was always late. And that was because, and that hurt me because she wasn't meeting my needs, because it was important to me to be on time for my sporting practice, or be on time for school, or, be on time. And it wasn't important to her. And so as a result of that, I later on put a huge meaning to being on time. There was more meaning than it should have had. Now, it's important to be timely and punctual in business, and it's important to have mutual respect, but it shouldn't I shouldn't lose sleep over other people's tardiness. Right. And so I came to that realization that it was rooted in the way I was raised. And then I forgave my mom and forgave myself. And now, that emotional energy is no longer trapped within me like it once was. That's a simple example of a very simple one. Behind every trigger, behind everything that discharges energy from you in proportionate to what it should, that requires too much emotional energy,